Hello students, this is your teacher Professor Nirmal Kumar Swain. So continuing with the previous module for writing your PhD synopsis, where were we? We were at review of related literature. So couple of concepts, a couple of issues we discussed, what the students normally face while write the PhD synopsis. Okay, so students generally question to the supervisor how many literature should be reviewed in a PhD synopsis, and how many pages this literature review should be. I would like rather this module is entirely focusing on review of related literature. You remember, at one hand you all think related literature review is related literature review is very easy to make, so you can add as many as, it's not that as many as, it's not that it has a logic. Why do we keep literature review or review of related literature in our PhD synopsis, and the same literature reviewed in at a larger extent in while you submit your PhD thesis, but here it is your PhD synopsis only. So to my mind, if you think of confining your PhD synopsis into 10 to 12 pages, but so it should be brief, short, and to beautiful also, because suppose you make a number of pages 20-25 like this, it looks very haphazard, unorganized, and doesn't look good, unprofessional, as if nobody guided you, or either you don't know, it shows that you have less or no interest in doing your PhD. So that's why if you confine your entire synopsis into 10 to 12 pages, then obviously this literature review would be confined to 1.5 a page or 2 pages at best. There nothing is written anywhere, but I would rather I suggest in this way you confine it to 1. And so remember, if your PhD thesis, PhD in synopsis literature review or review of related literature is confined to 1.5 or 2 pages, then how many literature would be reviewed? So a couple of things crop up in the student's mind. It all depends upon even 2 pages or 1.5 page of review of related literature also. You find 10 to 12 literature, 20 literature, depending upon your writing style, your narrative style, your vocabulary, your experience in writing. So it all depends upon. Sometimes students we observe while evaluating your synopsis, like they go to a research journal, in a research article in a journal, and they simply copy that the abstract and paste it in their things. So sometimes it is 10-20 lines or sentences. So it makes you, so in a page if you write it like this, it only 5 to 7 reviews can be accommodated in the confined page. So don't do that way. So what you are supposed to, I told you how do you write. So there are broadly two types, like you concept wise and or sequence wise by year wise, descending order, like 2020 should be first, then 1918, like this. So largely literature should be from your journal articles or journal research papers largely, and obviously many more like classic books, then PhD thesis also, PhD dissertation also should be there. Then sometimes in humanities book reviews are even has a greater value in reviewing literature, because in the critical appreciation of a particular text, particular novel, so there. But in case of social science, book reviews normally one or two, if you want, you can have, or else. But these days, blogs, then YouTube, social networking sites also, people do a review literature from those platforms. Okay, so both print form and online form. So like those journals are available these days. Mostly we go by the journal articles, or from the online, journals available in online platform, or e-journals we call it. Okay, so while doing so, you get experience and don't think much about it. But what exactly you are supposed to mention from a particular literature, maybe a book, maybe a journal articles. So you write so brief, like brief is that in the sense so brief. You mention only the authors, the hint you give rather in the text inside the synopsis, like author surname, and bracket you mention the year. Year shows that how old and how new is your article. And while writing, you also, better it would be if you mention the types of literature. Types of, suppose you are writing journal article, then you mention in a journal research paper. So suppose you are evaluating, suppose someone is reading, then by looking at the title of the literature, so one would know this is a book, this is a book chapter. In the book chapter, the author evaluates, so book chapter, journal articles, book review, book, article, paper. So interchangeably you go on changing. So what kind of journal on the spot, while evaluating, the evaluator comes to know that in your entire review, which types of literature dominates, so it should be journal articles. Okay, so that way. And this would be written in a different way while you submit your full PhD, maybe after 2 or 3 years, whatever. So but here it should be, don't categorize your literature here, because only 2 pages or 5 to 10 or 20 literature are being reviewed. So don't categorize, but you do mention. Then sometimes the students ask, sir, year wise how many years should be conducted, and to what extent the literature chronology should be stretched. So as such there is no, but people say that 10-year span should be there. 10-year, why 10-year span? Suppose you are 2020, then 2010 your literature is reviewed. So in 10-year span, a concept or something gets a full potential idea is created. Then within 10 years it gets maturity or takes full form of the literature. So that's why 10 years. And in between, don't give break in it. The way I am saying, it is my suggestion and widely practiced, but as such very less prescription of how exactly literature review so far the chronology is concerned. So give a chronology like 2020, 2019, 2018, not one, even sometimes 2019 also you can pick up 2-3 literature. In 2018 also it can be one. it shows that the sincerity, after all, what we are going to see, whether a candidate, a research doctoral candidate, is able to has potential or sincerity to conduct the research or not. So that means you have gone through the literature very tactfully. Suppose someone, it further shows, suppose you pick up a 2018 journal article, 2018 journal article. Obviously, you must have downloaded or managed to have more literature on published in 2018. Only you have picked one or two from 2018. It shows that. So that's why a chronology should be there, and dominantly rather it should be your journal articles, and don't miss books also. Okay. And again students ask like should it be from only and only 10 years span like 2020 to 2010? No, it's not that. Even beyond that also you can go. Like suppose you are doing some work on classification, example from library information science, classification, and Ranganathan's books and Melville Davis books, and many classics were written prolegomena, so years back. So there are 70s or 80s. So that way, if it is classics, and without that, whenever we discuss about library classification, knowledge organization, we cannot think of even few people's work, those who are very stalwarts or very foundational work. Foundational work means Ranganathan's work, then Melville Davis' work. In this sense also you can mention the classics. It may be from 70s or 80s also, associate there, but sequentially in modern literature you must mention, and pick up PhD dissertation also. Why do say probably your research supervisor may miss this to tell you, because many research have already been conducted in this, but their perspectives were different, not like of mine. Maybe constitutional studies, maybe scientometric, maybe library classification, maybe knowledge organization, maybe solar system, maybe so many PhDs or 2-3 PhDs, and having PhDs you can go to in Indian context. The literature is available in Sodh Ganga. It's a project by UGC in FilmNet. So you can find by typing the keywords, it is freely available. In American or in Western universities also, these days uploading the PhD thesis, full text PhD thesis has become trend. You can find out, but reading and finding out the literature, PhD thesis can give you the way and understanding. Sometimes you can find out the methodology. Suppose you are studying the reading habits of people of Haryana or people of MDU, the students of MDU. If some kind of studies were conducted 10 years back or recently in the Hyderabad cities or in Bangalore, Mumbai, so you can get some kind of inspiration regarding the methodology, the kind of data collection and kind of analysis. So as many as literature. Then another aspect I would normally tell to the students, suppose from which sources you pick up the literature. Okay, so rather you go for, because literature, very less number of literature you are picking up, those are pertinent to, very pertinent to your PhD work. Okay, so that way you pick up very profile journals, not the journals ordinarily public, because journal publishing has become a fashion these days. Every nook and corner, if you go to Delhi, many gully lane, sub lane, you find journal publishings. Rather you pick up those popular journals. Popular journal means journals of high repute, journals edited by very good scholars, or published by the suppose Sage, publisher Sage, then Oxford University Press, then Cambridge University Press, or the journal published by some university, some departments, of 10 years standing. So these are the certain generalized criteria of thinking of good journals, or if it is indexed in Scopus database, or these days Indian Indian UGC listed, what we call UGC care list. So there should some kind of criteria to judge a journal is good. So that way, even while picking up books also for your review, pick up those books which are understood to be classics, are cited by many. So these are the criteria. But you pick up a book ordinarily published from your in a rural hometown, and if you review, you can do review, but doesn't have much impact. Maybe you may be questioned on that particular book. Why don't you? That means you are not aware of. That shows that how poor you are in your sincerity, in your showing your cognizance of your latest development. Okay, so these are the way of reviews. Okay, so but while writing you can carry on. So in this module, what the gist of the summary of this module, as it was focused on review of related literature. So related literature, like you pick up a couple of those are very much pertinent to your literature, very much pertinent to your PhD work. Then secondly, I said pick up all kinds of literature or varieties of literature, largely from journal literature, books, and as I said, book reviews are mostly the humanities people, literature people they add. So the latest critical appreciation of a particular novel is found in book review. Then you write in such a way, certain elements of the particular literature should be there. The title and kinds of literature like books, book reviews, research articles, or YouTube or social networking site, kinds of literature, so that the evaluator can come to know what kind of literature you have included, more in numbers in your review part, in your synopsis. Then you developed a mechanism of writing, so that you in your few sentences only major things should be included, so that you have ample space to include more and more number of reviews within your stipulated pages. Suppose you want to mention 2 pages or 1.5 pages. Okay, so remember title, nature of articles, then authors hint in the author surname, if there are APA, MLA, there are many style manuals, so you can know that hint, and which year it is published. That year shows that how old and how new are the journals, and methodology used, findings, and the best part of normally people miss in their literature review is that how is it helpful for your research. At least somewhere in your last sentence this should be. Probably these are the generalized things for your literature review. So with this video we will next move to. Okay, bye bye then.